What's going on, guys? Aubrey Whitley here, and I'm so glad you're stopping by. If this is your first time on this channel, welcome. And if you're coming back, I appreciate your support and I'm glad that you found it valuable. So hopefully I will continue to bring that to this channel. Now, what I do want to say is if you get value from this topic we're about to cover, because it's actually a really cool topic, make sure you hit subscribe. That way you get notified when other topics come out. And the bigger this channel gets, the more guests we can bring on and the more specialists we can bring on. So we can start doing some really cool stuff. I do want to throw it out there that we do have some guests coming on over the next month. So keep a lookout for those notifications. All right, so without further ado, let's jump into this topic. So channeling your shadow self through your training. What the heck is she talking about, right? So we're going to first talk about what is the shadow self, what we're meaning by that, and how do you channel it through your training, and what happens when you do this? What's the outcome? My first exposure to this was firsthand, was experience. Without even realizing I was doing this, I did it. And I realized that when you really concentrate on doing it, it gives you even more power. You really can not only grow muscle easier, but you can begin to shape your body a lot more efficiently, which I know as women, we're very interested in because we don't want to just grow muscle from head to toe. We want to have a beautiful shape. So there are certain areas that we don't need to progressive overload and get massive. And then there's other areas where we want to push the weight. Maybe we want some really powerful thighs and glutes. So, when you strategize your training like that, this concept of channeling your shadow self becomes even more efficient. So what is the shadow self? Let's talk about this. Think about your higher self. This is the best way to break it down. When you think about your higher self, this is you thriving at your best. You are up here. You're winning. You're feeling joyful. You're in the flow. You're at peace. You got energy. You are your highest self. So when you think about that, then you think about your shadow self. This is the part of you that you like to hide because it's uncomfortable when people see it. It's the things that we tend to not talk about, that we want to keep in the shadows. So things like anger, frustration, resentment, stress, self-doubt, depression, those things that as humans we label as uncomfortable or even bad, we usually attribute those to our shadow self. So all of us have one. It's not like if you have one, you've reached the right video. We all have one. And so what happens is when you get in tune with that shadow self and you connect to it, instead of completely ignoring it and letting it come out sideways, which, just so you know, is, like if you're in line at a grocery store and you see someone going off on the cashier for no good reason, they're probably suffocating their shadow self and it's bleeding out. It's coming out any way it can. So that might be exploding on a complete stranger. Or maybe you snap at your kids. It's because usually this parts of yourself have been suffocated. They've been quieted. They've been hidden in the shadows. So then they come out sideways. That's your shadow self. And the last thing you really want to do is shame yourself or tell yourself a story that you're bad for having one. That is the most human thing to have. And it's really good we have them because they serve so many amazing purposes. But the problem happens when we ignore this part of ourselves. We try to just act like, we're not having issues and we're not having negative feelings or we're not stressed. It grows and it makes us sick. There's an amazing book called The Body Keeps the Score, and it talks about how trauma is stored in our bodies. And even if you distract yourself and your brain can forget it, you actually might not be able to recall traumatic events in your life, but your body remembers. So you might see a color or smell a smell, and it takes you right back to that traumatic event. So what this tells us is bodies keep track. we have stored trauma in our bodies. And that's a big part of the contribution to our shadow self. Because if you think about it, anger, hatred, jealousy, these negative characteristics we associate them as bad, but they come from somewhere. And a lot of times it's trauma. So when I was going to school for mental health counseling, trauma is what I wanted to specialize in because I thought it was so fascinating how our bodies protect us. And it does that so that the trauma doesn't happen again. And we could do a whole series on that. So I won't dive too much into that. But I think now you get the concept of what the shadow self is. So for me, in my story, when I first started my journey to becoming a better version of myself, my shadow self was running the show. A lot of you all know my story. I'm in recovery. I do not drink. I have a history. And, at one point I could have faced 10 years in prison because of stuff that I had done. So I am no saint. And I don't coach other people because I'm better than them or because I'm perfect. I do it because I am so flawed. I have to be so intentional about every area in my life. I'm obsessed with it. So I help other people with it. That's where this comes from. I've been able to channel my shadow self and rewire this. So I love helping other people do that. And so back to the shadow self, that shadow self was running the show for me. I was willing to do things different. I got to the point where I was broken and I wanted to start rebuilding myself. I had hit my bottom, and you have had a bottom, or you might have had a period of time where you thought, I've had enough. Like, the pain is great enough. I'm tired of looking this way. I'm tired of feeling this way. I will do whatever it takes to do something different. When you reach that point, you unlock something. You become willing. And so I was willing to make all the changes I need to make to become the better version of myself. But I had so much overwhelming emotion going on. It was almost like a hangover from my past life. I was still really angry at everybody. And even though I put a smile on, I was very, very hurt. I was very insecure. Didn't trust people. And the main thing, I didn't like myself. I didn't love myself. So when I first started training, this would come up for me. I wouldn't be actually thinking about all these things, like, how I hated myself, how I was mad at this person. I never thought specifically about those things, but I would just feel that rage in my body as I trained. I would start to feel it come up when I was about halfway through a really hard set. So I started to run with it. I really, really started to run with this, and I took off with it. And people started asking me, they're like, how do you do it? You must have so much discipline. Y'all, I am one of the least disciplined persons by nature. So I've had to really build on this and practice this to get to the discipline I have. But what I'll say is, I took that shadow self, all those parts of me that I was ashamed of that were basically making me feel like shit, if I'm being real. And I was able to channel them through my training and release them. Which brings me to this. You can get all the talk therapy in the world. I'm a firm believer of talk therapy. I got my master's in mental health counseling, but it's not going to get the trauma out of your body. It'll help you process it, but that shit is still stored in your body. So when you go and you train, or maybe it's not weightlifting for you, maybe it's Brazilian jiu-jitsu, or it's running, whatever it is for you that's releasing what that shadow self is holding on to, find it and allow yourself to release it. So what I started doing, because I noticed I was getting better. What was happening was when I would go to the gym and my intention was to release what doesn't serve me, I went hard because there was a lot that I was holding on to inside that didn't serve me. Hating myself, doubting myself, all this stuff that did not serve my highest good, I left in the gym. And I did that for years. And I got really strong. And I know you can do the same thing because I've helped other women do it. And I don't do the work for them. I'm not the one that's doing it. It's them. So when you go into the gym, you get yourself in that mindset that I'm going to leave what doesn't belong in here. It's not coming out the gym door with me. I'm leaving it here. And sometimes when you start your sets, especially if something's been coming up. Maybe you've been having nightmares about something stressing you out or triggering you. If you allow yourself just to go there when you're centering before a set, you don't have to think specifically about the event. It's not like you have to re-traumatize yourself. All you do, feel your body. You'll get there quick. You'll get there quicker than if you think about the scenario. Your body will get there so quick. You can even ask your body before you go into your set. You can say, what do you need to release? Ask it, and it will come up immediately for you. When I say come up, I mean you'll either get a feeling in your gut, your chest will start to get a feeling, but it will come up, I promise you. That's your shadow self working with you. It will let you release that stuff. So when you go to talk therapy, you release it audibly. You get the energy out of your mouth. You get it out of your body that way. But this is different. You're releasing the energy through your physique when you do this. Okay. So let's take it a step further. We've talked about what the shadow self is. We all have one. We're all gonna always have one. So how do we keep working on this to our advantage? Well, we know we can channel the shadow self, and what happens is it takes us a lot farther than if we weren't to let these feelings come up. So in other words, you might think you've got 12 reps and that's all you can do. But when you tap into that shadow self and you let it release, you might get to 20 reps, no problem. And I promise you this, if you truly tap into your shadow self and you release the rage, the anger, the shit you're holding on to, you will go far beyond what you think you can do, I promise. That's how you get really strong. That's how you grow a lot of muscle. That's how I did it. That's how I teach women to do it, especially if they show up with a lot of baggage that they're carrying. And I don't mean that bad. I just mean we all have things that we're bringing, right? Past experiences, feelings, etc. So next level, let's talk about it. So now you know you can release it and you've learned how to bring this feeling up, whatever it is that you need to release. So now you can actually concentrate that energy. So what I mean is, if you have an area that you know you need to get stronger in, for example, I had no legs when I first started. I had pencil legs. I really wanted to grow my quads, my hamstrings, and my glutes. I got to the point where I could send that energy that was coming up to my target muscles. The way you do that is just how you allowed yourself to bring up all that baggage and you could feel it in your body. This is what you do. When you're in the middle of your set and you're feeling your target muscle working, keep your mind there and release the energy through that muscle. I know it sounds woo-woo, but do not knock it till you try it. If you master this, your shape is going to change tremendously, I promise. So you channel that energy through the muscle that you're targeting. So that way, when you get to where you master this, you can be doing an exercise that's intended for one body part, and just with your mind and manipulating the energy alone, you'll be able to feel it where you want to. So the example I always use with clients is you will get so good at this that you might be doing a single arm lat pull down and only using your shoulder. Maybe not only, but your shoulder will be doing the work without your lat engaging. That's how you can use your mind-muscle connection, and send energy to different places in your body. And so as you can, imagine when you get stronger over time and you're pushing more weight over time, this is only going to intensify. So keep practicing, keep building on it. The end result is supernatural. So I'm going to close with this because it's something that we don't think about. If you think about one of the hardest experiences of your life, or a phase that was really stressful, that's painful to think about. When you think about going through that, it's not natural. Trauma is not natural. That's why it changes our brain structure. It is stored in our bodies. It makes an impact. Trauma is not natural. So what happens is when you then learn how to release this trauma through training, your training becomes supernatural. You do what's not natural because you've felt a level of pain before that's not natural. So then you carry that over into the weight room and you do what other people can't do, and you channel that pain and you make some pretty mad gains, and you will go far beyond what you ever thought you could. So I really, really hope this resonated with you all today. And I'm going to share just a little bit more, but I wanted to make sure I wrap it up there. If you get nothing else out of today, just hear me say, you have a shadow self. We all do. And it's nothing to be ashamed about. And it's really, really healthy to release this shadow self. So why not do it with your training and get a damn good physique in the process, right? And feel better, feel lighter. So this is just kind of a little bonus. I just wanted to use a personal example real quick. So recently I've taken a little bit of a shift in my coaching direction, and luckily I have an awesome coach behind me, Coach Kelly, who started off as a client and is now more of a partner in my coaching business because she is so awesome in supporting the women and helping them with their training and their nutrition. I feel more called to do mindset coaching at this point and really dig my heels in there. I did prep coaching for a little bit, but what's happened is I've done a lot of healing, you guys, and I have such a long way to go, and it's a lifelong process. But what happened is I'm not who I was 8 years ago. And so all this rage that I first brought to the gym, I've worked through it, and it's, in my experience, it's not there like it was. So I don't really enjoy going to the gym and tearing my body to shreds like I did at one point. I've grown into a new phase in my life. And what I really, really am passionate about now is showing other women specifically how possible it is to break out of your faulty belief systems and completely rewire who you are to live a completely different state of being. And that's the direction I'm going in. So that's why this video is especially important to me, because I've just recently shifted this direction and really dug my heels into the life coaching instead of fitness coaching. And so this shadow self, this is something that I have grown to love and I've grown to respect. I don't let it run the show like I used to. We work together now. I don't let it run the show. But understanding the shadow self and understanding that we all have one, and it's okay to release it. It's up to you to choose. Do you want to be in control of where you release it, or do you want it to come out sideways at the cashier next time you buy your groceries? It's your choice. All right, guys, I really hope you got value. I love you all, and thank you so much for stopping by. I would love to hear your comments on this below, and don't forget to subscribe if you got value from this. I will see y'all next time. Stay strong.